My name is Isin Onol. I come from Istanbul originally, and I'm based in Vienna. And I work as an independent curator. In a panel discussion once, Anton Miracle nicely put that independent curators are independent until they find a job, because they are mostly unemployed curators. So I'm in that transitory phase as well, but I'm not going to talk about that. So I've been researching, I'm doing my PhD right now in Vienna, and here I would like to present you a little bit of my academic research and a little bit of my curatorial research, which are not really independent from each other, but they have different aspects. I was first graduated as an artist in 2003 from a master's degree in Istanbul, and there my master thesis was accompanied with an exhibition as an artist, and I was by then working on installations with shadows. So I was using shadows as mediums in art, so directly I was interested in their immateriality. So I was directly dealing with the shadows and trying to install them in exhibition space and trying to question their existence within the space of art and within the space of the audience, which is the actual time, as opposed to the time of the representation. So after that I started working as a curator. Then I continued my research on the artists who are also working with these notions. And mainly I was interested in the artists who were directly using shadows as mediums. But by the time that my interest was more focused on the artists that are using digital media technologies which represent your shadow, and they reproduce actually your shadow in front of you, where the shadow is somehow detached from its owner, and then the audience is faced their own shadows from a different angle. And my main interest in there is the idea of transmitting hidden political connotations through them. And my main interest in the political connotations there, it comes from the idea of the Western thought, as we all know, quite based on notion of, in a very ocular-centric point of view, it's based on vision, the strength of light, and its representation of truth, knowledge. So, and I'm looking at in our contemporary societies, how we are still using this vocabulary of the very ancient Greek philosophy in terms of how light and in general how enlightenment still represents the knowledge in our contemporary language, and how we still talk about when things are quite unknown or dodgy or in a dirt also, we still talk about darkness. With the metaphor of darkness. So still when you just open newspapers today, I'm sure there are so many metaphors still existing just right now, telling that these issues are in darkness, we don't know about it because there is no light shed on this, or there's new light shed on this issue. So we keep using these metaphors a lot. But I'm also trying to look at the danger with throwing too much light today, which is about very related to the notion of surveillance, of course. Because today, the more and more light shed on us, we are more under surveillance, and it is quite an excuse of the system of surveillance by convincing our societies that we need more light to be shed, because actually there are so many dark, unknown areas that should be enlightened, and it's going to save our life. So basically I'm trying to research on that idea, how we are so much convinced on this notion of use of light, and how, well, in post-structural and post-Fordist terms and so, most of the philosophers started looking at these notions from different aspects, but the very period of enlightenment, the 19th century of the philosophy of the 19th century, which has a very strong impact on today, on the thought of today, is very much based on this dichotomy between the light and darkness. So at first, so at the moment I'm just showing some examples from the research where artists actually embrace the notion of shadow from a totally different aspect. So in literature and art in general, we have different understanding of darkness and shadow, which is not shown rather as a dichotomy between the as opposition to knowledge, but rather embracing it as an area of research or curiosity, or even with more related to idea of playfulness, for example. This is an artist from Azerbaijan, Rashad Alakbarov. He did actually many installations with shadows, but this one was from the Venice Biennial in 2007. And he uses these daily objects that he finds they are quite like recycled objects basically through his art, and creating this differentiation between Eastern cities and Western cities within the same installation, by simply changing the direction of the light. So this is a kind of way to point out where we actually can no longer talk about one single truth, right? So this light was changing in one of the installations he made, where you could see on one hand for a while the Eastern city, and on the other hand the Western city. So. To come back to the political aspect, here we need more information, more light to see probably in terms of vision. But today's societies are in transition, and they are no longer very sterilized or very differentiated from each other, but we all live together. And within these societies we have many invisible layers, which are not directly part of the society in terms of having legal documents, for example, or there are ones who are still existing within the system in an invisible way. So the way we want to incorporate with them, for example, if it is the way which the system is already using, which is quite, I mean, this metaphor of shedding light can be used here. If we are just throwing the light on them, making them visible, we simply endanger their existence, right? So the way we collaborate with them, the way we, actually, I mean, I'm also one of them as a migrant living in Vienna, doing lots of dodgy stuff to just show myself legal enough, but also doing lots of illegal, creating lots of illegal papers and information to live there properly. So this notion of illegalness and invisibility has to be protected within the sphere of our art and culture, of course, today. So I'm just trying to look at this notion of transitory through this aspect, while trying to protect the rights of invisibility, basically. So I'm showing just a little bit more examples of artists who deal with the history of use of shadow. In the meantime, I also would like to mention that in the research, I'm also having a look at the history of how shadow was used in art. So we all know it comes from very ancient times, from Chinese shadow theaters that was also reproduced in different ways, that traveled through Egypt and then Greece, Turkey, and so on to Europe. So this Chinese shadow theater was an inspiration a lot of time for the contemporary artists today. And probably in Cyprus it's also quite famous, this Hagivatis and Karakasis characters. They are quite famous in Greece. Today, they were very much important characters in the Ottoman history of Ottoman Empire, where they were the only political characters. They spoke with their shadows, and they communicated with the audience by simply criticizing the existing system. Where today we only see them as very kitschy cultural entertainment elements, only appear in Ramadan, weirdly. So it's a kind of, now it is invaded by religion, let's say. So they appear in Ramadan and do some touristic activities, and then we don't hear them anymore talking politically. But I know today, still in Greece, for example, I don't know if they exist here, they continue being very critical about the ruling powers, and the notion of shadow is very much strong here, because they are using this notion of in-betweenness. They don't really exist, so they are not really saying all those things, but they do say those things. They only exist as long as the light shed on these objects. So this political use of shadows continued in contemporary art today. But as I said, and again, another example from an artist from Switzerland, the notion of existence and non-existence, and shadow being the proof of things that are existing, and it's in betweenness between the idea of existing time and the time of the previous, as a trace of the previous time. I'm just trying to summarize the entire research very quickly, because I don't want to spend lots of time on that. I don't want to take lots of time from you about that. But I just wanted to give you the general frame from different aspects that I'm looking at shadows. But mainly in this research also, I'm more interested in the moving shadows. So when we look at the history of shadows until the mid 19th century, so up to 1820s, we only have moving shadows as representations, because the light sources were moving, sun and candlelight, and then the gas light. So we always had moving shadows. But Roberto Casati, an interesting Italian writer who is also making his research on shadows, he also focused on this issue that the static shadow only appeared in mid-19th century with the invention of the electricity, of course. So from then on we had focused shadow that is not natural anymore, that is not direct anymore, and that is very much manipulatable, of course, in a way. So then the more the technologies of the electricity has changed, the more artists became interested in shadow. So there can be so many examples can be given here. But can I go back to the file?
Yeah.
Now we need to go back there once again. Yeah, let me guess. So I go. So here, I would like to show one artist from Austria as an example, where he involves.
Use beards.
It's MP4.
Yes, which one?
This scan or this scan? So this is an artist, young artist called Much from Austria. His real name is Andrea Heider. He's using this maybe less volume, so I can still talk. Yes. So here the audience encounters their own shadow, and shadow just behave like the person. However, when the person stops moving, the shadow starts moving by itself. Or when there are two people, it only follows the person who is moving. I would like to show another one from him. So this is more playful video that he shows here. This is part of a festival, an electronic festival. So as soon as the person stops, the shadow starts moving differently. How he does this is that there's a sensor measuring the person as soon as they arrive to this area, and then there's a projector up there, and through the program he created, it makes it a horizontal view of the censored image, and then it reprojects the image, and then what we are actually seeing here is actually a projected image. As long as the person moves, the shadow image works with them in a very real way, and as soon as the person stops, the projected image continues presenting the shadow of the artist. Now, it's one of the examples that artists, there are many artists today that are very much fascinated with this possibility of playing with one's shadow and detaching from the audience and reproducing that. Quite a famous one is Rafael Lozano Hammer, a Mexican artist living in Canada, and what he does is quite different, because he actually collects information and reproduces in totally different ways, and lets the audience learn those informations through shedding their shadows on the work. In this work, he takes thousands of pictures of people in different cities and projects on a facade of a building, and then sheds very strong light on the building, making the image invisible. So light here actually makes the image invisible as a position to make it visible. To be able to see those images, the audience need to shed their shadow on so that they can see the previously taken images underneath their shadows. So if I just go a little bit further. So this creates, it's in of course a public space where it brings the just the random people become the audience of the work, and then they participate. And without the existence of the audience, the work simply doesn't exist. So if there is no one there, it's only a white building. But as soon as people come and start interacting with the building, then through their shadows they start seeing things. So I simply summarize these possibilities of playing with shadow, catching your shadow into the work, and as soon as you are catched in the work, then the transmission of the information, the possibility of transmission of the information starts. So this is quite a playful example that I showed here from Rafael Lozano, but he actually has very strongly political ones as well. But I don't want to stay there too long because I think I don't have too much time. So I would like to go back to my curatorial research and show you a few other possibilities that I've been working on this. So this is a prison in North Turkey, a city called Sinop. And they have a biennial there, and the biennial is called Sinop. And I was a curator of the last edition, and I made an exhibition together with other curators, and I did the concept through as an excerpt from my research, I can say. This is a child prison that is used as the venue, the main venue of the biennial, and this venue, this prison was active until a few years ago, maybe a little more than 6-7 years ago. And this prison was one of the most famous prisons in Turkey in terms of its tortures. So after the 1980 military coup d'etat, most of the left wing was actually imprisoned, either killed or imprisoned in Turkey. And Sinop was one of the most famous ones in terms of how they actually simply tortured or killed people there. So the memory of this is quite fresh. But the thing is, this prison is very much in the middle of the city. And so the families, every family had actually at least one child in the prison. So everybody below 18 years old or 17 years old prisons, and even also the child prison. So they could easily hear the screams coming from the torture. So it was it was extremely heavy, this story in the memories of the people. So this prison right now is totally emptied out, and the government doesn't know what to do. They moved out to prison, and now it is just an empty place. So a group of people started creating this biennale, which is not a governmental project. It is totally working as an NGO. So and this city used to be an ancient city where Diogenes, the philosopher Diogenes, comes from. Diogenes, right? And he comes from this, and his full name is actually Diogenes of Sinope. And the city itself was an ancient prison by the time he lived there. So the city itself was already famous as a prison. But today, it is rather. Where's my phone? So I'm a Mac user, and so I would like to go to the exhibition, which is actually. So it can just go free. So Diogenes comes from here, and Diogenes is very much famous. What he says to Alexander the Great, like, "Don't cast shadow over me. I don't want anything from you." So right now in the city, we see maybe in a micro level how the global politics are functioning. They are building a nuclear power plant there, 3 hydroelectric centrals, and 1 thermal central. Power plants. So all sort of energy projects are going in the city, and the citizens have no right to stop the government, because as soon as they come together and protest against it, they get hit by the police and they are stopped. But very recently, one village could manage to get rid of one of the projects of a hydroelectric central. So here we call this edition of the biennial, Wisdom of Shadows, Art in the Era of Corrupted Information. And we were looking at how information in front of us continuously being manipulated under the name of more light being shed on the information. So we gathered together with artists who are dealing with shadows from different aspects in relation to idea of presenting knowledge, information, and those oppositions and dichotomy. So this was one possibility for us to come together and use this very transitory element that is used as a medium in art to come together and make quite a political action in the city, which functioned very well. And we worked directly with the citizens of the city, and this is happening actually every edition of the biennial. People come together and do produce all their work together with the residents of the city, and all the outcome of the works take part in the oral history writing of the city, basically. So each work is related to people directly. Either people take part in terms of physically helping or doing the work themselves, or they give the information, the background information. So we put the official histories aside and do the entire research together with the citizens of the residents of the city. So I stop here. I will try to be very quick. Any questions? Do we have? So we maybe finish and then we have discussion and questions.
We have